Okay, everyone, welcome back to another unit breakdown here on Surge to Hit. Today's episode is going to be on IG-11, which is an absolutely really fun unit and can fit into a few different list ideas that I've had going in my head for a while. So without further ado, let's jump straight into IG-11's unit card. But before we do, make sure you guys like, comment on this video, and subscribe if you like the content, and put the bell notification on if you want to stay up to date on all of our new content that is going to be coming out. So, on to his unit card. Alright, so IG-11, he is a mercenary operative. He is 105 points, but that price isn't technically super accurate because based on the faction you're in, it could be guaranteed to be more, or 105 is the exact, and I'll get into that later. He can go in the Empire or in the Rebels. Like I said, he is an operative, so there's only going to be one of them in the unit. He is a droid trooper, so that means he can't get suppressed, which is super nice. He has 5 health, red defense dice. He has courage 2. For his surge chart, unlike most bounty hunters, or people that can be bounty hunters at least, he has surge to hit and not crit, which is kind of unfortunate, but is good for the balancing reasons. But he also does not have surge to block, so he only surges to hit. His speed is speed 2. Going on to his keywords that he has armor 1, so he can cancel 1 hit result. That's just generally kind of nice. He has Gunslinger, so he can perform 2 ranged attacks in a turn. He shoots, and then boom, he shoots again, which is really good, especially with his longer ranged weapon profile. He also has Impervious, so when he's rolling defense dice, if it's Pierce 1, he gets to roll an extra die, so just because it's a Pierce attack doesn't mean it's guaranteed to do the damage. Super cool. And this is what I talked about with his price of 105 points isn't necessarily 100% accurate because he also has the programmed keyword, so he has to equip a program upgrade card. There's 2 options. One costs no points, one costs 5 points. But the 0 point cost one can't be used in the Empire. So if you're running IG-11 for the Rebels, the bare minimum price is 105. But for the Empire, the bare minimum price is 110. That's what I meant by that. He also has Sharpshooter 1. So when he's performing a ranged attack, reduce the defender's cover by 1. Super simple, super nice, super easy, which is great. Looking at all that, that's all really good keywords, really good combination of the keywords. Programmed is kind of unfortunate because then it kind of limits. You have to spend points if the Empire on him to make it more expensive. But overall, it's really not that bad in the end of the day. Moving on to his weapons, he has Overpower for his melee, so that's 4 red. Pretty good melee. 4 red surge to hit is pretty good. For his ranged guns, now he has 2 options. He has a ranged 3, range 1 to 3, modified E11 blaster. That's going to be 1 black, 2 white. Once again, surge to hit, but it also has Pierce 1, which is really nice. A ranged 3 gun that has Pierce 1 and you Gunslinger. That's huge because no Gunslinger has ever had the Pierce 1 built into that long of a range of a gun. Range 3 is significantly longer than most of them. But he also has a range 4 non-Pierce gun, which is his modified DLT-20A rifle with 2 black and 1 white at range 1 to 4. Super good. Once again, Gunslinger, you can shoot 2 targets with it, and they have minimum. They can't have anything better than light cover because of your Sharpshooter 1. So, very, very good. And overall, just looking at his unit card before we even get into what he can get for upgrades, this is a very formidable piece on the board. Just being able to target multiple enemies with a Pierce weapon is big, and that's range 3. And if you can't target 2 guys at range 3, you can target 1 guy at range 3, 1 at range 4, 2 at range 4 with his Gunslinger and his extremely long range dice. He's going to be, just like I thought with IG-88, he's going to be very, very formidable on the battlefield. But he also does come equipped with some upgrades. So let's go look at those upgrades and see what's worth taking on him and what's really not. Alright, so we're going to start with the one thing that IG-11 has to equip no matter what, and that's going to be the program slot. Both of your options are pretty good. You have nanny programming and bounty programming. Nanny programming is for rebels only, and it gives you AI dodge and move, and allows you to equip Grogu onto IG-11, which I think is pretty handy. That's a really nice ability to have, especially if you keep IG-11 back with the rest of your army and like a gun line. Grogu can sit there and heal your guys if that comes, or if there's a force user that's rushing into your rebel DLT gun line, you can be like, hey, cool, to immobilize with the Grogu. So that's really good. But also he comes with bounty programming. Now, bounty programming can be used with rebels or Empire, which means you can have double bounty in rebels, but you have to have Din and then IG-11 with bounty programming. But it's pretty good. Bounty programming, what this gives you is it gives you bounty, and it gives you AI aim and attack. And also, on top of that, if you choose a leader unit as a target of bounty, your weapons gain Pierce 1. So his overpower becomes Pierce 1, his E11, the range 3 gun, becomes Pierce 2, and his DLT becomes Pierce 1, which means you now have a range 4 Gunslinger Pierce 1 gun, or a range 3 Gunslinger Pierce 2 gun, or your melee now has Pierce 1. This is a great upgrade. And also, it is worth noting, but I think it's the less better of the two choices when it comes to your bountying targets, is that if you were to target an operative, all your weapons gain suppressive. Which is nice, because then you're going to be handing out a bunch of suppression each turn, but I think the Pierce is overall better, in my opinion. But if you can only target an operative, target your operative. Either one of the programmings is pretty good. If you're in Rebels, you could use either one. If you're in Empire, you have to use Bounty. So those are your options for programming, and they're both pretty solid options, in my opinion. No one is better than the other. But let's move on to his other 3 slots, his training, comms, and gear. So when we're looking at the training upgrade slot, it's good to know what IG-11 lacks. He lacks good ways to generate a lot of aim tokens, because he's going to really need them, especially if you're using his range 3 modified 11 blaster with 2 white dice. He's going to have a 5 out of 8 chance to miss that shot, so being able to generate lots of aims is really good. So what I would use for this is he has, for his training options, I would say Hunter is a good pick for him, because that means if you're targeting your bounty, you get an aim for free. It's super nice, and you don't necessarily have to use it on that attack also, as long as you target your bounty first. Then for your second gunslinger attack, you might have a free aim that you can use with it. Pretty nice. So I'd say Hunter's probably the best option. You also have the option of using offensive push. That is an option. I would say it is worse, unless you have some way that he can recover for free in the turns, like by using General Veers, potentially, his 3-pip. But I would say offensive push is an option, maybe if you don't have enough points for Hunter, if you're really pulling it tight on your points. Some other things that I was looking at, Tenacity, you might think, oh, Tenacity is a great option, it's going to be a 5 red melee, and while you would be right, IG-11 isn't built to be a melee character, he's built to be a ranged character because of Gunslinger. So yeah, Tenacity could be an option, but it really shouldn't be. And then the final option I would say that has some potential to work is Up Close and Personal. Because if you, you're not working at range 2, if you get into range 2, you can generate 2 dodges for yourself every turn, which is super nice. But also, on IG-11's 1-pip, he does kind of like a spin around at all of his enemies at range 2, so he can target every enemy at range 2. Every one you attack, you generate a dodge. And that's a super good combo, because an IG-11 can just have this way more survivability, because you might run him right into your enemies and be like, hey, cool, I shoot 5 of you, well, I just got 5 dodge tokens for it. So Up Close and Personal is also a good option. So to go over those, Hunter, offensive push, Tenacity is a strong maybe, and then Up Close and Personal. Those are going to be your options for training. Hunter being the best. I would say Tenacity probably being the worst out of all of them, but everything else kind of falls short of what you'd really want to do with IG-11. Alright, so if we're going into the comms upgrade, I would say The only good comms upgrade is probably going to be emergency transponder, and HQ uplink. HQ uplink, get a free order, and then you prevent yourself from having to do AI. But it is really expensive, being 10 points, so your next best option behind HQ uplink is probably emergency transponder, because you're going to give yourself access to a free aim or a free dodge or the removal of one suppression token, which could be big and prevent you from panicking. Yeah, so I would say those are your options: HQ uplink or emergency transponder. I'd prefer HQ, but emergency is definitely an option that you can take and could be a good one. Okay, and moving on to IG-11's gear slot. This is a very interesting slot because honestly, there's not a whole lot that you want to put on there that's really going to be fantastic. I do think ascension cables and environmental gear are good things to put on, to throw on, kind of, if you just happen to have the points. But overall, I think honestly the gear slot is one of those slots you could leave blank and not suffer too dearly for it. I mean, yeah, you do. You aren't going to be using one of your slots, but you're saving on points. So I would say environmental gear, just so you get unhindered, or ascension cables, so you get scale for a turn, potentially more if you are able to recover it, I think is pretty good. It's something that you could definitely use. So that cuts it for the gear slot. All right, moving on to some potential builds you can use for IG-11. We're going to be doing a build for the nanny programming and a build for the bounty programming. So let's jump right into it. So for the nanny programming, of course, starting out, you're going to have the nanny programming upgrade, and you're also going to have equipped with you is Grogu, just for, because, well, if you're using nanny programming, you're going to want to use Grogu, and honestly, whether it's competitive, don't know, because Grogu is certainly someone that needs a reevaluation to look at on whether he's going to be in the competitive scene or not. But nanny programming, Grogu, and Hunter, just so you can generate aims on your gunslinger slots. Since you have AI dodge and move, you want to be able to some way to generate aims for your ranged weapons. And then going right over into his bounty programming build, you have bounty programming, you have Hunter, and you also have emergency transmitter, emergency transmitter, and then you have finally in the gear slot just environmental gear, just so you can keep on the prowl, keep on moving towards your bounty of choice. All right, moving on to the command cards for IG-11. We have his 3-pip anti-capture protocol. This is a really interesting card, because if you have IG-11 in your army, you must include this card no matter what. If you don't get a set, you have to have it. And now if IG-11 has 3 or more wounds by the end of his activation, he performs a self-destruct attack consisting of 3 red, 2 black, it's impact 3, it's blast, it is suppressive, it is a monster. Overall, this is going to be a great card to include if you plan on running IG-11 in a way where he is going to be up in your enemy's face. Very, very good card. Next, we're going to be moving on to his 2-pip. Now, his 2-pip is shared with IG-88, but IG-11 can also use it, and that is a machine made for killing. And this is a really good 2-pip card. I went over it in the IG-88 video, but it is a 2-pip, IG-11 or IG-88. You get an aim token for free, you get SETI, you get Demoralize 3. Overall, pretty good card, especially on a bounty hunter like this. It's nice, and highly recommend using it and including it if you can. And finally, moving on to IG-11's 1-pip. This is his little whirlwind attack spin move that he gets. It is a pretty good pretty good card. So a 1-pip, this is Mechanical Carnage. He spins around and he is able to unleash a devastating volley upon multiple enemies. So during his activation, he loses Gunslinger, and the first time he would attack, he would perform an attack action. Instead, he just performs an attack against every single enemy at range 2 of him. So not range 1. Keep in mind, you have to be at range 2. So that's something that you really should keep in mind when you're using this card, because you're not going to be able to go after someone if they're too close to you or if they're just too far from you. And you can use either of his weapons is another important thing. You could use his range 4 or you could use his range 3 gun. And this is just potentially a way to dish out a ton of damage. And overall, a pretty good card. So by looking at all of the command cards IG-11 has access to them, this is overall a pretty good command suite. I would say all these cards are definitely worth taking a look at for potentially being in your army. Although I would say the highlight for me personally is Mechanical Carnage. It is just a really good card, and I can't wait to use this card in particular. In fact, I just got IG-11 and I got Din, or IG-11 and IG-88 and Din, and actually a couple of pikes in the mail recently. So be on the lookout for those in an upcoming video. But his IG-11 is looks like a lot of fun to play, and just to have on the battlefield overall. I think he's going to be a very, very useful, as a way to use in Rebel gun lines with his range 4 Gunslinger gun. He's going to be really good in that. I also think that it will be interesting to see how he fits opposed to IG-88 in the Empire, because I would say they're both really good, but they both have their merits. But I think IG-88 overall is better at getting those bounties, while IG-11's more better at like being a weapons platform for the army almost. And overall, he is good. I would suggest IG-11 over Din for carrying Grogu, but that's just personal preference. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see how IG-11 fits into the meta. I do know PAX is coming up in December, so maybe we'll see some IG-11 or some IG-88 or some Din in the finals. We're definitely going to see Din. He is super, super good, super powerful. So I want to see how that turns out. Without further ado, if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me in the comments down below, out of the 3 new bounty hunters that we're getting, who is your favorite and why? For me personally, it's going to have to be IG-88, just because I always thought when I was watching Empire that he was the coolest looking person, and we just see him in like one scene. But IG-88 is personally my favorite to come out of the 3 of them, and I like his 1-pip the best probably. So, hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic day. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe. And see you guys all again in a future video. Peace.